Hello and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. It is nearly 6 a.m. I wanted to schedule this at like 5:45, but you can't schedule it in 15-minute increments, only 30-minute increments. So I put it at 5:30 so I could join somewhere between the bottom of the hour and the top of the hour. All right, here we go. Here we go. From 1844, T.W. Samuels, Kentucky blended whiskey. And this is it really is from 1844. It's not one of those flim flam things like they'll say, like Jim Beam since 1795. Well, the brand Jim Beam has been since 1938. There's evidence that there could have been distilling going back all the way to 1795. And there probably was in some ways, but they try to present it as though the Jim Beam brand has been around that long, and it has not. Sort of like Evan Williams, what do they say, 1784, and then you find out it really came out like in 1953. All right, anyway, this one actually came out in 1844. I did trademark research. Yep, the trademark was acquired in 1844. Oh, well, you know, they got bought out. T.W. Samuels got bought out. It's a Heaven Hill brand today. All right. And we're going with another old one, but not nearly as old. Ancient Age Preferred blended whiskey. Now, say where is it from? Oh, they say 20% straight Kentucky whiskey and 80% spirits distilled from the finest grains. You know, they're going to always say that. I believe this is buff. It's dark. It's dark. It's red on black. Yeah, Frankfort, Kentucky. I was right. Buffalo Trace. That's right, because Ancient Age bourbon is listed on the Buffalo Trace distillery website, but not the preferred. This is one of those Sazerac hidden brands. It exists, but you'd never find it on their website, okay? Now, they're saying Ancient Age came out in 1946, but my research indicates 1936. And I told the company that, and the lady talking to me said, you know, what evidence do you have? And I presented all this evidence. Oh, no response, so no changes. I haven't checked in a while. So not 1946, 1936. But anyway, I bought this bottle of Ancient Age Preferred at BenQ Liquors in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But it started showing up around here at some stores in the 1.75 milliliter plastic bottle, which is actually cheaper, but I bought the glass. $8.99 at BenQ. Yes, you can get it cheaper. I bought this $8.99 at Winn-Dixie. Yes, you can get this cheaper. So I would say $8.99 is the top price. And definitely not the best price. But you say, well, that's cheap right there. I know. That's how cheap they are. You pay $8.99 on the worst case scenario, in the worst case scenario. Then you pay $6.99 or $7 or $5, even $5.99 if you might stumble upon it. Should you be searching out these two brands? No. These are what we would call serviceable products. T.W. Samuels was aged 3 years, okay? The ancient age preferred is aged at least 4 years. There's no age statement. Okay. So that might make the difference. I don't think it's going to be too easy to tell them apart. It's going to be a true challenge, I do believe. I'm going to answer all my comments later as far as, you know, my comments from the last 15 hours. I'm going to do that. I just haven't had a chance. I was looking at all the baseball highlights and eating breakfast. Okay. I can see that one is amber and one is gold. And I don't know which is which, but I have a strong suspicion that the gold is the T.W. Samuels and the amber is the ancient age, but I'm not sure about that. The straight bourbon that they're using in ancient age is probably, it could be 3-year age, ancient age, and they're just, then they're taking it, blending it with the grain neutral spirits and aging it another year. I don't know. They're probably just blending it and bottling it. So it's probably maybe Barton. 4-year age Barton. I bet you it's not Eagle Rare. Bet you it's not Weller. I bet you it's not Pappy Van Winkle. I bet you it's not Blanton's. Or even Old Charter. Those are all Sazerac brands, you know, under the Buffalo Trace umbrella. Or the Barton 1792 distillery umbrella. I bet it's not Barton 1792 either. Well, it doesn't matter. We'll never find out. What about the T.W. Samuels? Yeah, they're probably using Heaven Hill straight bourbon whiskey, which is their budget brand, with their grain neutral spirits. Here we go. You may find these around. Neither one of these is really too common around here. I mean, I can go to Winn-Dixie right there. I can almost see the Winn-Dixie sign. I might be able to if I look hard enough, but through the darkness, the daylight is coming. It's on the other side of the railroad tracks. You know, the railroad tracks that the train comes down and blasts during my videos. It doesn't seem to be moving too well, but Winn-Dixie is a weird company. You know, I don't know how much longer they're going to be in business, tell you the truth. But T.W. Samuels is not sold in this parish. St. John the Baptist, nor St. Charles, nor Jefferson, nor Orleans, nor St. Bernard, or Plaquemines that I've seen. I've only seen it in Tangipahoa, St. James, and East Baton Rouge, I think. So they have a different region. The cheap Heaven Hill we get is Heaven Hill. Heaven Hill blended whiskey, Kentucky blended whiskey. That's what is sold here. And the cheap Sazerac one, the cheap Sazerac blended whiskey is typically around here. Oh, I gotta think about that for a minute. It's around. Would they have one? I don't know. I have to go to the store and look. I'll go in my cabinet just to jog my memory. It's one of those things. I know their cheap gin is Crystal Palace. They sell Crystal Palace everywhere around here. You say, oh, Crystal Palace. Oh, no. They got a lot of alcohol. I mean, oh, me, oh, my. A lot of hobbyists around here that like to go into the Crystal Palace. And plus, they sell a lot of the little plastic flask bottles of Crystal Palace. You know, I call them going to work. Going to work. I don't know why I say going fishing. You understand? Going fishing companion. They even had old advertisements for some of those liquors where they would show a guy with a flask in his back pocket. The Fisherman's Companion, all glass, or today all glass or all plastic. You see now, let's say in theory, and I would never, ever, ever endorse this, someone wants to take it to a football game and you say, they got metal detectors now, right? Well, it ain't going to detect a plastic bottle with a plastic cap now, is it? And I was at the LSU football game Saturday night, and I went to the restroom and I noticed right there on the top of the toilet paper rack a bottle of vodka. A very common vodka that you see everywhere. What's it called? Not Pyramid. Not Pinnacle. Oh, one of those brands that if I mentioned it, you'd say, oh yeah, it's got a funny shaped bottle. But there it was in all of its glory, plastic bottle. I said, and it's empty. Oh, well, all right. This one has a pungent sourdough aroma. Now, oh, that's a tip-off. You see, that's a tip-off. That's a tip-off. That's a Sazerac calling card, the sourdough. Because, and let me be even more frank, the Ancient Age preferred uses sourdough, right? Uses a bagel. Uses sour mash whiskey. How do you know that? Well, it says it. Doesn't say it here, but well, okay, I suspect it does because the Ancient Age is sour mash. And maybe they're using, okay, well, maybe I have to backtrack. But I think they're probably using that sour mash whiskey. I know TW Boots uses sour mash, and that's a budget brand through CVS Pharmacy from Sazerac. Okay, so that's making me think preliminary is that it's the Ancient Age. Now, oh, well, hello there. This smells like the cantaloupe and the honeydew melon. You say whiskey's not supposed to smell like that. I know, but that's what it smells like. And so that's telling me Heaven Hill. So what I'm trying to say is that Heaven Hill blended whiskeys have a more of an off flavor. That's what I'm trying to say, yes. They have an unusual, or as they say on Proof 66 website, exotic characteristics that you get with the cheaper ones. Yeah, it's some wood, but it's weird. It's like Cheerios and some strawberry Kool-Aid or fruit punch Kool-Aid and the honeydew melon. You say, you're crazy. That doesn't smell like that. Well, I'm afraid it does. It's pungent a little bit. Craft Beer Tastic. So what's the date, guys? Well, when you're dealing with whiskey, it doesn't really matter. It's not like beer where it gets so stale so quickly. And my friend David and I have been having such bad experiences lately with outdated beer. And he was just going off. We had deleted the video. He said, delete that video. It was bad. It was so outdated. And you cannot trust a grocery store. And you cannot trust a distributor. You can trust yourself to check the dates. That's about the only option you have. And then if the can doesn't have the date, guys, or the bottle doesn't have the damn date, guys, you're screwed because you don't know how old it is. Now, if it's an Imperial Stout, I mean, you know, it's probably all right. But you say, well, I wanted to drink a light beer. Yeah, well, then you're in trouble if they don't have a date, and I wouldn't buy it. But most light beers have a date. So, but it's a real problem. All right. So when you go shopping for beer, just be true to yourself and you will never fall. All right. So preliminary evaluation tells us that this is the Ancient Age preferred, and this is the T.W. Samuels, and I did glance when I raised the glasses, and that one was darker, and that's already making me think. Remember what I said on the appearance, that I thought it was the ancient age because of the darker color, which I think is coming from the longer aging. But let's taste it now. You see, but aroma goes to ancient age, or what I think is ancient age, because you're getting more wood, more char, more bourbon-like characteristics. Don't fool yourself. This does not taste like bourbon, really. You want real bourbon for a cheap price, get the Benchmark. Oh. No, they're probably not using Benchmark because that's only aged 3 years. And this is at least 4. I'm telling you, there's no age statement. I don't know what they're using. They may have a stock bourbon that they use for their blended whiskeys, though, you see. You know what I mean? Like one that they don't sell as its own brand. Like if you want to call it a mixing bourbon, that could be the case. They'll never tell you anyway. And they're probably adding blending sherry for both of these. You know, American blended whiskey can be up to 2% blending sherry, and they do not have to disclose it. True story. Read the Tax and Trade Bureau website. All right, enough's enough. Time to taste it. Oh, look, daylight's coming. And we're glad that Florence has dropped to a Category 2 hurricane. That's going to make less people evacuate in the future now, because they always overhype these things. And when it's way out in the Atlantic, you know, it's a Category 4. And it's the end of the world as we know it. And I said to my father, I said, you know, these things, they tend to lose momentum as they come toward the shore when they're too strong, too far out. And a lot of people were not evacuating. They're just banking on that. That thing's going to drop. You know, it's like an IPA, and you let it stay, and then the hops drop. And I think that's what happened. Well, we're hoping that it just keeps on losing momentum, keep on slowing down. I mean, the wind speed. You want the hurricane speed to be pretty high. That way it'll just hit shore, go in, die, dissipate. You don't want it lingering and just dropping a bunch of rain. That happened here 6 years ago here in this town. The hurricane came, it was a Category 1. The wind was kind of bad. I had some roof damage, but I was able to repair it myself. But I didn't like the way it got stuck. And I was saying, it's going to start flooding. You know, it just wasn't moving. And then it flooded hundreds of houses in this town. I mean, flooded them, and they all had to get their houses rebuilt, you know, like refurbished, because you got 2 feet of water in your house for days. That was a mess. That was a mess. Flooded the whole high school. Yeah, they had like 2 feet of water in the whole entire high school. All right. That is one weird whiskey. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about how pleasant it is, because I don't think it's too pleasant. It's too melon-like. There's wood. Yeah, there's char. There's flavors commonly associated with whiskey, as the Tax and Trade Bureau requires. But I don't know, man. It just tastes a lot like the Heaven Hill. It's T.W. Samuels, which these days, is probably more of a brand than an actual product. But don't get me wrong. I've read a good deal about whiskey, and they said back in the 1800s, it was even more treacherous because there was all kind of flim-flam stuff going on. Like totally unaged, and they were adding color to it to make it look like it was old, and all kind of BS. Stuff that would not just taste funny, but you would die. You know what I mean? Like you would drink it and die or go blind. So, I mean, there was a lot of bad things on the market back then. But the government saved us, right? Oh, no, don't get started on that. That's actually where the Bottled and Bond Act came from in 1897, Bottled and Bond Act under the William McKinley administration, due to that bad stuff floating around. I don't know. This has to be the ancient age on the left. You're right. Maybe you're right. Sometimes these things are reversed. Which one would I prefer? Well, I would prefer the Ancient Age because it's got more of a wood, char, bourbon character. Oh, but it has white hominy grits also. These things are almost all corn. I mean, get some Miller High Life beer and drink that and compare it to these, and you're going to notice a lot of crossover, especially with the Heaven Hill, the Samuel T.W. Samuels, because the Miller High Life has this peculiar vegetable, steamed vegetable thing, which is nice in steamed vegetables, but not necessarily right in beer. It's got a character, but this one has that vegetated matter also, but this is more fruit and that one's more vegetable. But it's odd. Okay, last sip. That one tastes more like candy corn now. That it's breathed. You say, let it breathe and it'll taste like candy corn. Right, which might be an argument for not letting it breathe. Which one would I actually want to repurchase in the future? Neither, in fact. And I have no plans to buy any future blended American blended whiskeys, because I don't think they're too good. I would buy Seagram 7. That's one that actually has quality. I would buy Calvert, but I can't get it, so I wouldn't buy it. But Seagram 7 is the only one that doesn't seem to develop all these negative characteristics. Maybe you could make the argument with Beam's 8-star as well. Beam's 8-star does seem to hold its own. Doesn't seem to do as good a job now that they've dropped it to only 2 years. You say 2 years aged? Yeah, used to be 3. No, retraction. They've dropped the ratio. That's right. That's what I was. It used to be 75% grain neutral spirits. Now they jumped it to 80. Now Beam's 8-star is 80% corn whiskey filler, unaged corn distillate cut with water filler. Sounds delicious, don't it? All right. The comical thing about all that, though, is people will say, ugh, I ain't drinking that blended whiskey. It's a bunch of, they always say vodka. It's a bunch of vodka. Unaged grain spirit. Okay. Then they'll run out and buy moonshine. I bought some moonshine. Oh, okay. Well, what do you think that is? That's 100%. And then some of it will say with flavorings added. Oh, boy, now you really got something there. Of course, you paid twice as much. So you showed me. I got schooled today. All right. Well, there is a little char coming in, though, I have to admit. All right, I'm going to say Ancient Age. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll be embarrassed, but I'll just keep working through it. Damnation. Damnation. You say, what are you mad about? I hate to say this live on the internet, but the tag underneath that glass says TWS. And I know TWS does not stand for Ancient Age Preferred. Oh, I want to apologize to the T.W. Samuels family, because I'm over here talking about it's probably not even a real brand, and I'm over here saying how much bourbon it tastes like. Okay. You got me, Heaven Hill. You got me twice in this experimental extravaganza of extrapolated general principles, because I have done 2 taste challenges with T.W. Samuels, and twice I was ragging on it, talking about it's all these badnesses. But I was wrong, and it wasn't T.W. Samuels. It was the competitor. Okay, Ancient Age. Oh, Chihuahua, you have the melon. Whoa, well. Ooh. That's the danger of the blind taste test. You could really get tricked. Now, I watch some of these videos where people have the bottles right in front of them and they're looking, they're pouring it and they're looking at it and they're saying, this is that and that's that. And then they'll give you some history of either. And I say, well, that could influence you, you see. But if it's blind and you don't know, then you don't know. Because I got people, we argue about beer off air and they'll say, well, they love Busch. Oh, let's say they love Busch Light. All right. I love Busch Light. But they hate Bud Light. I said, okay. I said, do you think you could tell them apart in a blind taste test? But they won't do it. They won't do it. They won't do it. They won't do it. Will not. Because then what you're going to do now, in the case of Busch Light, wouldn't really matter, right? Because it's cheaper anyway. So if you get it wrong, if you think it tastes like Bud Light and you save $4 a case, well, hey, keep tasting it, right? It would only matter in the reverse, right? Where you love Bud Light, but you hate Busch Light, the horse urine drained through a dirty sock, and you spit in the face of people who drink Busch Light. But if you couldn't tell them apart in a blind taste test, why are you paying $4 more per case? I've been preaching that sermon for over 20 years. I was telling my father 20 years ago, I said, why are you drinking Coors Light and you're paying all this money and you could be drinking Keystone Light? Oh, a Keystone Light. He would never be caught drinking that. I said, well, you don't know because you never even gave it you never did the challenge. No, he wouldn't do it. End of story. Would not do it. I say do it now. Interesting, I was reading about the Pepsi challenge years ago where they would go around and let people try Coke and Pepsi in a blind taste test. And it was, well, I don't know if it was a double blind taste test. Maybe the person doing the test knew which was which, but the competitors certainly did not. You know, the contestants. They did one in front of St. Louis Cathedral in New Orleans in the French Quarter once. And of course, they would say, oh, the people choose Pepsi 2-1 or whatever it was. And they weren't faking it. They had some independent company, certification company saying, no, it was true. It wasn't like, obviously they're going to show the videos of the people choosing Pepsi. So it was true. It was true. On the initial taste, and this is back in the old pure sugar days, not the current dreadful high fructose corn syrup, Coke and Pepsi days. Oh, I drank a Pibb Extra Saturday night, Mr. Pibb Extra at LSU Stadium, Tiger Stadium. Horrible. Nightmarish. I said, this tastes like high fructose corn syrup. I hate it. It's drying me out. I'm drinking it because I'm thirsty. It's making me thirstier. That's what that fructose does. Then you drink more. It's a bad, bad, bad thing. But they got away from pure cane sugar years ago. Oh, so bad, so terrible, so horrible. Preach, preach. Now, there was a flaw with the Pepsi challenge, however. The people chose the Pepsi by a large margin in the initial tasting. Okay. Now, some independent people went back and restaged it, but let the people drink both over an extended period of time, let's say 10, 15 minutes. Guess what happened? The reverse. They ended up preferring the Coke over the Pepsi as they drank it down, because they found that the Pepsi was too cloying and sweet, and it became a turnoff over when you got past the initial taste. Well, you see, Pepsi wasn't going to tout that now, were they? No, they were not. Mike Stivic always claimed that Royal Crown Cola was better than the other two anyway, and then he claimed he could tell them apart on a taste and aroma only. So they gave him a blind taste test. They said, you never can tell them apart. So they gave him 3 cups, 1 Coke, 1 Pepsi, 1 Royal Crown Cola. Totally blind. He tasted one, tasted the other, sipped it, thought about it. He said, Pepsi, Coke, Royal Crown Cola. He nailed all 3. course, that was a fictional television series. So whether you could do that in real life, I doubt. Okay, now Gabrielle says, hi, John and Jay. And John and Illy says, good morning, Ron. And John and Illy says, I remember the Pepsi blind taste challenges and never bought into it. It was a true test and it wasn't faked, but it wasn't the whole story. See, that was that's what Coke was pointing out. There was a fallacy with it. It wasn't the whole story. You see. Now these two have breathed. I'm still getting the melon, which I thought was Samuel's, but it ain't. It's the Ancient Age. So this was a train wreck of a taste challenge, really, because I got them wrong. But you know, I'm not stressing out of it because we're talking about cheap products that don't matter anyway, except that you can buy them and drink them. I mean, they matter in that sense. But to change, these are not going to cause a paradigm shift in the liquor world. All right. They're bottom shelf dwellers. They're cheap. They don't really, they more like lurk in the dark corners of America's cities more than present themselves as a credible product. But I'm not ripping on them because I am drinking them, ain't I? And I did buy them, didn't I? And I still have some in the cabinet, don't I? Yes, some of them are unopened. Oh, I have some beauties too, boy. Oh, you do want me to show you some? All right, hold on. Some people will say, oh, I like the quaint qualities of these perverse items. You know what I mean? There's something almost like deranged about reviewing them with a straight face and giving them a credible review. I agree, and that's the attraction in a way. Plus the fact that they're not literally horrible. Okay, I have Bellows Club Whiskey. Oh, man. Blended and bottled at Frankfurt and Clermont under United States government supervision by Bellows and Company. An honored name since 1830. Yeah, Bellows Club Whiskey. Literally, another true story. They have had Bellows since 1830. Now, whether it was... They weren't all the same brand, though, but there has been, I want to say there was a company since 1830 called Bellows. This is back when it was bought out by Jim Beam, not Suntory, but Jim Beam. There is no more Bellows Club Whiskey from what I was able to research. And they always had that bee on it, that honey bee. And there was a famous court case over Bellows. Bellows suing a company producing a whiskey called Fellows. Bellows versus Fellows. Copyright infringement trial. Very fascinating trial. He even went to appeal. Here's Bellows American blended whiskey. But this is the St. Louis version. No, and there's no bee. What happened to the honey bee? Huh. It's got WB on it, William Bellows. WB, William Bellows. You say, what happened? Well, you see, they got sold off to Luxco, same people that make Calvert. Beam didn't really want to deal with too many of these cheap brands, so they sold Bellows off to Luxco. This is the newer Luxco version. You could tell the other one's all old. The label was coming off. I had to glue it back, and it was eaten up by like some kind of insects, either roaches or don't worry, I washed it with hot water and soap, or maybe those other little bugs that like to eat paper. What do you call those things? Silverfish. But I got it really cheap at international markets, so I said, what the heck? It's so bizarre anyway. But that's it. Those are the last two blended whiskeys, and let me tell you what, I'm not buying any more. unless I change my mind, but I don't plan on it. All right. Now let's see. Last comments, then we off the air. John and Neely said, I like trying these super cheap budget brands. The search is half the fun, and many of these products have been around forever, so you really can't be that. They really can't be that bad, right? Otherwise, they'd be long gone. Yeah, they're not like horrendously bad. Let me take a last sip. But they're just like kind of bad. You know what I mean? Like, why are you drinking this stuff, man? But you know, they got some cheapskate people in the world, and they would just rather die than pay a penny more. You know what I mean? Like, they would be satisfied drinking this stuff and saving a penny. Literally, they would do it if it was a penny cheaper just so they could save a penny, and they wouldn't drink like a straight bourbon like Benchmark. I mean, compared to Benchmark, which ain't even that great, but compared to Benchmark, this stuff is just the worst. You know what I mean? But people are saying, there you are drinking it. That's true. Still, it's not as bad as the bad beers. You know what I mean? The bad whiskeys are not as bad as the bad beers. But if you keep sipping on them, you'll go off on them. You keep sipping on them like I am neat, you'll get sick of them, man. They will start presenting more and more negative qualities over time. But the bad beers, they'll present negative qualities over 5 minutes. It takes 5 minutes to start hating them, not 5 months. Oh, like your Beer 30 Ice, your Rockdale Ice. I don't even think Rockdale Ice is at Walmart anymore. That's how bad it was selling. People tried it once and never bought it again. But they still got the Rockdale Classic and Rockdale Light. Oh. They're not like here where I'm presenting some negative thing. They're just like all around bad, man. All right, so enough of that. I have to do another taste challenge later today because I think Sunday morning is not going to work out. So I got to double up. What is coming up? It's T.W. Samuels versus Beams 8-star, believe it or not. I'm going to be very careful because I got burned twice with this T.W. Samuels. I mean, I got burned and embarrassed twice with this stuff. So I got to really start thinking more clearly. I'm talking about the melon and all this, but I got to keep in my mind wood, char, bourbon, T.W. Samuels. Okay? I mean, this is something to watch out for. The hurricane that's coming up. Says Gabriel, right? The hurricane that's coming up. I'm not sure I'm following what you're saying. I don't know how that's related to what I'm saying. But anyway, yes, there is a hurricane coming up, and looks like it's losing momentum, which is a good thing. All right, thanks for watching this video production. Got it wrong. Well, my biggest challenge to the audience, though, is if you're going to call me out and come at me real hard, which some people do, that's fine. If you're going to come on the internet publicly, and you're going to have to take the hits. But my retaliation against them is always saying, or my retort is, where are you? Do your own blind taste test on air. They'll say, well, I don't have to do it. I don't give my identity out because I have a very sensitive job, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. That's wonderful. But if you're going to talk it, you need to walk it. You know what I'm saying? Don't come at people about they're wrong and they don't know what they're doing with taste challenges, but you won't even do it. You won't come on air. You won't even use your real name. I'm using my real name. This is me, my face. It's not a mask. I would watch your taste challenge. I would make comments, although the comments I make would be nice. You know what I mean? Like in a good spirit. They wouldn't be attack comments, pinpoint troll comments, you know, sharpshooter troll comments. They would be just like reasonable comments like, oh, I did that once and I was wrong too. And I wasn't. But so if you're going to talk it, you need to walk it. That's all I'm saying. Thank you for watching this video production, and get ready because later this afternoon we got Mo.